There's a thread on Reddit from about 2 weeks ago. It's from r/Athletics. A Cardinals fan wrote it. The title is, "Why am I not hearing more about Nick Kurtz? Or am I just living under a rock?" He checked the MLB leaderboards and saw Kurtz everywhere. On base percentage, walks, RBI, OPS, WAR. Then he looked at the career totals. 51 home runs, 135 RBI, and a .588 slugging percentage to begin a career. His conclusion was simple. This guy is off to one of the better starts to open a career, and I barely hear about him. The top reply wasn't another stat. It wasn't a comparison. It was 10 words. Because he plays for the Athletics in a AAA ballpark. That's it. 11 upvotes, 17 comments. A baseball fan accidentally stumbled onto one of the best young hitters in the sport, went online to make sure he wasn't missing something, and the community basically shrugged. The strange part, he wasn't wrong.
That was an absolute...
Oh, diving play by Kurtz to his right.
How about that?
Kurtz. And Kurtz makes the catch from the out.
What a magical night for the Big O!
Right now, Nick Kurtz is batting .290 with 19 home runs, 61 RBI, and a .995 OPS. That's fourth in all of baseball. He's the reigning AL Rookie of the Year. He's 23 years old. And somehow, the conversation around him still isn't about how good he's become. It's about whether pitchers have already figured him out. You heard it all spring. Sophomore slump, too many strikeouts. The batting average from last season wasn't sustainable. The league finally adjusted. On the surface, it sounded pretty reasonable. Kurtz struck out 30.9% of the time during his Rookie of the Year season. His .290 batting average finished 41 points higher than his expected batting average of .249. Then April arrived. He opened the season 1 for 21 with 13 strikeouts across his first 6 games. For a lot of people, that was all the proof they needed. Told ya.
Hey guys, this is Jose from Baseball Unleashed. Hey, we're building something special here for all baseball fans. We're going to provide you guys the best MLB content throughout the 2026 season. Hit that subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss out what's next.
But here's the part almost nobody stopped to look at. While the batting average was falling apart, the quality of contact never did. His average exit velo in 2026 is 94.3 miles per hour. His hard hit rate is 58.3%. His barrel rate is 18.3%. Now compare that to the season when he won Rookie of the Year. Average exit velo 93.6, hard hit rate 50.9, barrel rate 18.3. The barrel rate didn't move. The exit velo actually went up. The hard hit rate jumped by more than 7 percentage points. During the exact stretch everyone called a sophomore slump, Nick Kurtz was hitting the baseball just as hard, if not harder, than he did while winning Rookie of the Year. Wait, what? If the contact is better, why are the results worse? That's the question Fangraphs asked in May. Their article was called Nick Kurtz's Strange Encore. Instead of arguing whether Kurtz was slumping, they put 2 anonymous stat lines next to each other. Batter A hit .290, .383, .619 with a .170 WRC+. Batter B hit .244, .412, and .412 with a .130 WRC+. At first glance, most people would take batter A, but Fangraphs pointed out something interesting. Batter B walked more, made better swing decisions, hit more line drives, faced a tougher pitch mix, and even though the traditional numbers looked worse, he was actually hitting the baseball better. Then they revealed the answer. Batter A was Nick Kurtz during his Rookie of the Year season. Batter B was Nick Kurtz during what everyone was calling a sophomore slump. Just think about that for a second. His slump still produced a .130 WRC+. That's still 30% better than league average. Most hitters would gladly take that over a full season. The difference wasn't that pitchers suddenly discovered some massive weakness. The difference was that the results hadn't caught up to the quality yet. That's a very different conversation. Because once you stop looking only at batting average and start looking at how the baseball is actually coming off the bat, the story changes completely. The strikeouts were still there, but so was the elite contact. The walks were still there. The discipline was still there. The power had not disappeared. The underlying profile that made Nick Kurtz one of baseball's brightest young hitters hadn't gone anywhere. The box score was telling us one story, but baseball told us another. And that's why the people who spend their time looking beyond traditional stats never seemed all that concerned. While everyone else was debating whether the sophomore slump had arrived, they were looking at the same batted ball data that made Kurtz such a highly regarded hitter in the first place. They weren't asking whether he was still good. They were asking how long it would take before the results caught back up. Because if the baseball keeps leaving your bat at 94 miles per hour, if you're still barreling baseballs at the same rate, if you're actually hitting the ball harder than you did during your award-winning season, then maybe the scary truth isn't that Nick Kurtz regressed. Maybe it's that almost everyone was watching the wrong numbers. And that's where this story gets even more interesting. If you want to understand why those underlying numbers mattered so much, you gotta go back to one game from last season, July 25th, 2025, Houston Astros. Nick Kurtz walked into that game with 65 major league appearances, and by the end of the night, he'd done something no rookie in baseball history had ever done. He went 6 for 6. He hit 4 home runs. He drove in 8 runs. He tied Sean Green's major league record with 19 total bases in a single game. And he became the first rookie in MLB history to hit 4 home runs in a game. He did it in just his 66th career appearance. Nobody else had ever done it in fewer than 425 games. His teammate Jacob Wilson summed it up better than anyone could. How is he doing it? This is not normal. He's playing a different sport than us right now. That's the version of Nick Kurtz people remembered heading into 2026. Then, 6 games into the new season, after the 1-for-21 start, the conversation completely changed. Which raised a pretty obvious question. If a player has already shown he can dominate a major league game like that, if the underlying contact numbers are still elite, what exactly were people expecting to regress? Because the bat speed didn't disappear. The power didn't disappear. The discipline didn't. The only thing that changed was the outcome. Fangraphs documented exactly where it showed up, the launch angle. Instead of lifting balls to the pull side, more of them were being hit on the ground or driven back through the middle of the field. The quality of contact was definitely still there. The barrels were still there. The exit velo was actually higher. The difference was just a few degrees. And in baseball, a few degrees can be the difference between a home run into the seats and a line drive caught in center field. That's not a talent problem. It's a timing problem. And timing problems don't usually scare organizations that know exactly what kind of player they got. And that's why one of the most interesting stories of the spring had almost nothing to do with the box score. Before opening day, while everyone outside the organization was debating whether Nick Kurtz could repeat his Rookie of the Year season, the Athletics were trying to sign him for the long term. Not after he got hot, before the season even started. The reported offer was around $130 million, already the largest offer in franchise history. Nick Kurtz turned it down. He bet on himself. Think about the timing of that. Projection systems expected regression. The season opened with a 1-for-21 stretch. The headlines were already talking about a sophomore slump, and the Athletics still looked at everything they had seen and decided this was the player they wanted to build around. General Manager David Forst explained why they even made the offer. With the move to a new city and a new ballpark, the organization finally had the flexibility to keep young stars instead of watching them leave. That's why they made the offer. Not because of one hot streak. Not because of one unforgettable game against Houston. Because they believed the player underneath the results was worth committing to. And that's exactly what makes the next stretch so interesting. While the conversation outside the organization stayed focused on strikeouts and batting average, Kurtz quietly started putting together one of the longest on-base streaks in baseball. From April 4th through May 26th, he reached base in 48 consecutive games, the longest single-season on-base streak in the majors this year. It tied Mark McGwire's franchise record from 1996. It also tied Albert Pujols' 2001 mark for the fifth longest on-base streak by any player aged 23 or younger since 1900. Now, look at what he actually did during those 48 games. He hit .308, posted a .464 on-base percentage, hit 8 home runs, drove in 37 runs, and drew 48 walks. 48 walks in 48 games! Pitchers kept giving him fewer pitches to hit. He kept refusing to chase. That's not what happens when a hitter has been figured out. Manager Mark Kurtz pointed directly to the reason the streak kept growing. For Nick, it's not even the chase aspect. It's really being selective and knowing what he wants to do at-bat to at-bat and pitch to pitch, really. And that's the part that often gets overlooked. Everyone sees the home runs. Everyone notices the strikeouts. The selectivity is easier to miss. But it's also one of the reasons the underlying numbers never stopped looking so good. Even during the stretch people called a slump, Kurtz kept controlling the strike zone. He kept taking his walks. He kept forcing pitchers into uncomfortable counts. He kept making loud contact. The results simply took longer to catch up. And while all of that was happening, it was happening in Sacramento. Home games started at 9:40 Eastern, in a temporary minor league ballpark. Not exactly the easiest place for the rest of baseball to notice. Which brings the conversation right back to where it started. Maybe the reason people still aren't talking about Nick isn't because the production isn't there. Maybe it's because most people stopped paying attention after the first week of April. The Athletics never stopped believing. The underlying numbers never stopped believing. And over the next few months, the results slowly started looking exactly like those numbers said they would. There's another comment in that same Reddit thread that stuck with me. One Athletics fan wrote, "IDK in the baseball circles I'm in, both online and with friends, he's pretty unanimously considered a top 3 first baseman and a top 5 to 6 hitter in all of MLB. That's the split right there. The people watching Nick Kurtz every night already know exactly who he is. The people relying on national coverage are still catching up. And maybe that's why the original post resonated with so many people. Not because anyone was arguing that Kurtz wasn't good, because they couldn't understand why nobody seemed to be talking about him. Even NBC Sports pointed it out in their June 25 notebook. Maybe it's because he plays on the West Coast. Maybe it's because he opened the season slowly. But for someone having the season he's having, Nick Kurtz simply hasn't been in the conversation as much as you'd expect. That's exactly what this has been about from the beginning. Not proving that Nick Kurtz is a great player. The numbers already did that. The 4 home run game already did that. The 48 game on base streak already did it. The underlying contact quality already did it too. The scary part is how many people still haven't noticed. Because the sophomore slump everyone predicted, it came. He went 1 for 21. He struck out 13 times in his first 6 games. For weeks, the home run slowed down. The critics got exactly what they were waiting for. And even then, his underlying profile barely changed. His exit velo got better. His hard hit rate got better. His barrel rate stayed the same. Fangraphs looked at the underlying numbers and argued that the version of Nick Kurtz people were calling a disappointment was actually making better swing decisions and producing a stronger overall process than the version that won Rookie of the Year. The Athletics watched the exact same player and offered him roughly $130 million before opening day. And he turned it down, not because he thought he had already arrived, but because he believed he was worth even more. Through 77 games in 2026, he's batting .290 with 19 home runs, 61 RBI, a .995 OPS, and a .437 on-base percentage that leads the majors. Those aren't the numbers of a player who got figured out. Those are the numbers of a player who survived exactly the regression everyone predicted and still ended up among the best hitters in baseball. Which brings us back to that very first Reddit post. Why am I not hearing more about Nick Kurtz? Maybe because he's playing in Sacramento. Maybe because home games start at 9:40 Eastern. Maybe because the biggest stories in baseball almost always belong to the biggest markets. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. The leaderboards know who Nick Kurtz is. The advanced numbers know who Nick Kurtz is. The Athletics know exactly who Nick Kurtz is. A lot of baseball fans already know who this guy is. The rest of the baseball world is still catching up. And if geography is really the biggest thing standing between Nick and becoming one of the faces of the sport, the conversation is probably going to sound very different once the Athletics open their new home in Las Vegas. Because talent like this doesn't stay hidden forever. So if you want the full picture of the AL MVP race right now, the next video breaks down Yordan Alvarez and why the race is a lot closer than most people think. Click on your screen.